and soon we got separated. We were
Devastating as well because, everybody that she knew her own stability now yanked out in front of her. This is how people could do this to their kids is beyond me. Good morning, beautiful people. It's Mama Goob. So, I wanted to do something a little bit different today, and I wanted to expand upon something I had said when I did a reaction to Amberlynn Reid's last video. The video that I reacted to, I called it Amberlynn Reid's emotional merry-go-round because, you don't want to say roller coaster because at least that's thrilling. This is like a merry-go-round because it just goes in circles. It's a cycle, it goes in circles, it's the same thing, different turn. So I was listening to the Narc Alerts live also from this weekend, and I'm going to take a clip from her because she said something and it kind of wanted to make me expand upon what I said earlier. And also, y'all are messing with my YouTube algorithms because I've been doing so much digging into Amberlynn Reid stuff that now they're sending me stuff to look at from her. So it was like the stars aligned between me doing the reaction, the Narc Alert doing another discussion of the topic of this topic, and then in my feeds I got a suggestion from a video that was called An Emotional Look into My Past, Parts 1 and 2, that Amberlynn Reid filmed when back in late November 2013. She was a little child in this, but she goes into her background and what her parents did. And I thought it was interesting that the YouTube algorithm would have pointed this video in my direction based upon, the video that I had reacted to and what everybody's talking about right now. So I thought we would take a look at it together. But before I do that, I'm going to replay a part of what I had reacted to this weekend. So I'm going to be reacting to my own reaction. And then I want to play what the Narc Alert said. And then I want to go into Amberlynn Reid's video to show you what she said 9 years ago, which is, quite the contrast. So, without further ado, let's get this party started.
and it's like I keep going back to the past.
Yeah.
Like, I like to watch old videos of mine, and it's like I don't think I've ever seen myself this passionate.
So, why it's weird is because she was watching old videos herself. Well, I pulled up one such video. We'll see it in a minute.
Over weight loss and how bad I want to live. No matter how hard this is and how many times I have to say no to bad foods and to overeating and to triggers, no matter how many times I have to say no to those things, it's all worth it. And I just
Yeah.
regret more than anything having to get to this point.
Of course.
Spoiler alert, she's going to pretty much touch upon this in her old video from 9 years ago.
If I could go back and talk to myself when I was 13,
Hmm.
that 13-year-old, she needs love
Of
and she
course.
needs compassion
How about the 23-year-old? That's what we're going to see in a minute.
She
and
does.
she needs people to love her.
Yeah, and this brings me back to the whole, she idolizes and, her parents,
I
and she's
still
so
think
proud of
this.
them, and,
Hmm.
her mom's her hero for losing the addiction. Now, listen, I'm again, this is going to come off mean, but they're the people who put you on this course, right?
Hmm.
So there are certain things, and I'm saying this as a mother. I mean, forgiveness is golden, and she's a better person than me because I couldn't do it. But there are certain things as a mom that you do, and you almost like tear up your parent card, right?
Still feel this way.
There's just things that you shouldn't be forgiven. And I wish Amberlynn would have realized that, mourned her past, and move on instead of continuing to this day of holding on to it. And now she's all lovey-dovey with her mother when her mother was, 90% of the reason why she is the way she is. And we as the audience, we're the ones making it hard for her. Yeah. You got to admit to yourself the truth, hon. And your audience didn't do anything to you that you didn't do to yourself.
And she just didn't have that. She didn't. And things just started spiraling when I was a teenager, you
Of
know?
course.
Yeah.
I reached 420 pounds when I was 16.
Okay.
And that was like not surprising at all.
All right. So now I want to go into the Narc Alerts take on it, and I'm sure a lot of you watch them, watch her. Um, I know a lot of you watch her from looking at my analytics, but she dealt with a narcissistic parent in her past. So I think she knows a thing or two about bad parenting. Now, I had a pretty healthy family, no issues there, but my instinct as being a mom is there's just some things you do that are just not forgiven. So let's take a look at what she said from her live this weekend. It's just, I think about less than a minute.
I have said it before, and I will say it again. I actually do feel bad for
Of
the
course.
the the circumstances that Amber was born into.
Exactly.
I've said it before, and I'm not trying to mock her sad story
I
because it
agree.
is a sad story.
It is.
She didn't really stand much of a chance, this poor
She did
kid,
not.
right?
Neither did her brothers.
The parents she had, the foster care, the
Hmm.
eating disorder, this poor child, like if you would have met Amber when she was 8, you probably would have had a hell of a lot more sympathy, and I get that. And I do
Hmm.
feel bad for that little girl. I'm not trying to mock her story, but it's just, I don't know. Get the fuck over it. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be mean,
No,
but
sorry, gotta say it.
we all have sad stories, like granted, some people's stories are a lot sadder than others, and I'm not taking that away. And I know there's people that cannot get over things, and I get that, and I'm not shaming that. I know there's people that are in therapy for years trying to deal with stuff.
Well, and I'm not sure she ever really quite dealt with it because it's like one day her mom's never going to be better, and the next day she's her best friend again. It's fine, but not healthy.
But I think that her particular issue and the fact that she's been sitting and in it, acknowledging it, knowing what it is, and crying about it and monetizing it for 10 years,
Yeah.
that's the person I'm saying it's time to get over it to, not to anybody else. Let's make that clear.
So now that we have what led me up and inspired me to make this video, I want to show you the video again that she posted back in 2013, late 2013, when she was a mere little baby. Those of you who haven't watched Amberlynn Reid for like a decade, and I haven't really, I didn't know about this video. I've only probably been watching her for the last 4 or 5 years or so. She looks like a little baby in this, so it's kind of cute to see her when she started her weight loss journey and her expressed issues back then and how backwards really she has come in a decade. So let's take a look, shall we?
So, I was born December 27th, 1990 in Key West, Florida.
Fun fact, you know what they call people born in Key West? Conks. And people that have lived in Key West for more than 7 years, they call them freshwater conks. I love Key West, but it's not fun to get to. It's probably about 4 hours of sheer torture drive from where I'm at.
I do not remember anything about there at all.
Key West
I
is
moved
beautiful.
to California with my parents when I was just
And by the way, so she's lived in Key West, Florida, and then she moved to California. She's been on a diet for basically all of her life, but she's never had a grapefruit before. Okay. It's like the grapefruit is the epitome of diet fruit.
a baby. Um, and I grew up in California. But let's rewind a little bit. I remember as a younger girl, I did have a very, very hard childhood. My parents were drug addicts. They abused each other, neglected each other, but it's not just about the negative things in my life. I can remember the positives. We'd go camping. And I loved the outdoors as a little girl. I was actually called
She hates it now.
the golden child because I was so tan. I was always on my bike, I was always swimming, and
It's good.
I was always chubby then too, but I didn't care. I went out and did things that little kids did.
Mm-hmm.
But as I got older, I started realizing more so that my parents weren't like normal parents. Their location of using drugs was in the bathroom. So every time I'd go in there, I knew
You could tell that this really hurts her.
that when they came out, they'd be a different person. It
Sure.
wasn't a good way to live, but
No.
I feel like it did make me stronger in a way. I went
Yeah, no. It made you weaker because you still use this today to explain your bad behavior. But okay.
through a lot. When I was 8 years old, my mom said that she was pregnant with her third child. I
Mm-hmm.
already had a brother, and he's younger, so I'm the older child, and I was really happy. I was thrilled, actually. I knew she was doing drugs with him. Any 8-year-old wouldn't have a clue, but I had to grow up. I had to, in a way, be my own parent.
Mm-hmm.
So, when my brother was born, he was so adorable, and gosh, I loved him. As days went on, I did kind of take the role of being a parent in a way. I still remember one time in particular when my parents were on so many drugs that they were like passed out. My baby brother was crying, and I wasn't sure why, so I went into the room of where they were, and it was because his crib was by a curtain, and the curtain string was wrapped around his neck. I will
Just thank God.
never forget that day as long as I live.
Oh, I'm sure.
Even now, it's emotional for me.
Of course. And I think this is the brother now that she's been conversing with via text. The one who I think rumor was is he was homeless for a while and he was addicted to drugs. You know, what their parents did to really all of them, except for maybe she's going to go on and talk about the brother who was adopted out.
Hey guys, it's editing Mama Goob. In rewatching this, I realized that I don't quite understand Amberlynn Reid's family structure. Like, does she have two brothers or does she have three brothers? I know she talked about her younger baby brother recently who was in a car seat and got taken away, and he may or may not have gotten adopted out. But then later on, she goes to say that her mother had another baby. So I don't know. I'm confused. So does she have three brothers or two?
Their parents, their parents' behavior really did a number to their lives, all of them.
His face was purple. He was screaming, crying, and to put it shortly, I had to save his life, and I did. And then I realized that I don't think my parents will ever change. I was a 9-year-old, and I was taking on the role of being a mother.
Sure.
So one day
Happens with a
when I
lot of
was at
kids with addicted parents.
school, I think third or fourth grade, I got a call
So, like about 9 or 10 years old.
to the office. There were police there, and I wasn't sure what was really happening. And come to find out, I was being put into foster care.
I'm I'm curious to see what led up to this because generally they don't just come and get you for addiction, I guess. Well, I don't know. Actually, I shouldn't even say this because I have no background in it. I'm sure some of you, know out there a little bit better on why the police would just show up at the school and take the kids. I imagine there had to be a little bit more of an investigation to it, but I don't know. It was the 90s. Who knows?
I was being put into foster care with my one brother,
Hmm.
but my little brother was being put into a separate home. Um, After being in foster care for over a year, I was actually in a children's shelter for longer than that. Um, I found out that my brother was actually going to be an adopted child. He was going to be put in closed adoption,
Okay.
which meant I would never be allowed to see him again. It broke my heart, and it still does. And
I wonder if she felt like this because I bet you she wishes she could have gotten adopted too. But, especially back in the 90s like this, she was probably a little too old, which is so sad because how different would Amber's life had been should she have been adopted out by a loving, stable family?
it happened 12 years ago. Um, in a way, I felt like my own child was being adopted.
Hmm.
Um,
And she had no say in it. I mean, this is heartbreaking.
so it was just a hard time for me.
Yeah.
Um, After trying to accept it, I was thrown around into different foster homes and with my other brother, and soon we got separated. We were
Devastating as well because, everybody that she knew her own stability now yanked out in front of her. This is how people could do this to their kids is beyond me.
separated for a few years. It was very hard.
Hmm.
A lot of the time I felt alone and just confused with
Yeah.
life. Um, when I turned 12, my parents finally decided to get their act together, and we went to court and we had a 6-month trial to live with them. And that trial turned into 2 years.
So this was around the age of 13, which she talks about later on. So just to recap, so she gets yanked from school, put in foster care, bounced around to group homes, different foster homes. Her and her brother get separated. Then she's told that she gets to live back with her parents again on a trial for 6 months. And then it seems like she gets lost in the system for 2 years. Devastating.
But it was a failed trial. The whole time my family was just getting worse and worse. I started smoking marijuana. Um,
That's why I don't think she was doing Delta 8, guys.
I turned to the wrong type of people
Duh,
to
you
hang out
sure?
with.
Hmm.
My brother started acting out. Um, he started hitting me.
Yeah.
My parents
Probably a lot of unaddressed anger.
got worse.
Hmm.
Their drug addiction went to a whole new level. Um, we actually lived in a trailer. That's mainly what I lived. Whenever I lived with my parents, that's mainly where we lived.
Hmm.
It was the smallest trailer ever. And
A lot of them are small. A lot of them are huge too. A lot of them are really nice.
I never saw my dad, even though we were under the same roof. He had people coming in and out of the home.
But wait a second now that I'm listening to this again. Didn't she say way back when that her father had some kind of like garage that they used to hang up all their like he would hang out in the garage all the time because he had like a landscaping job or something, and then they used to hang up the scratchers on the wall. I don't know.
all hours of the day, all hours of the night.
By the way, I have a tendency to more believe her at this juncture because she didn't have anything to gain out of lying. I think when she recorded this, I don't even think she was like monetized yet. So, I don't think she stood to gain anything by making up a silly lie. So I'm apt to believe her more that this was her upbringing.
To buy his drugs. Um,
I could be wrong though.
my parents actually got separated at this time, which was hard to handle. Um, I guess it was best for them, but
Hmm. It's probably best for all of you.
it was still hard. Um,
Sure.
one day I was actually texting a friend and I told her that I wanted to die and I didn't want to be alive anymore. Her mom found the text message and her mom brought the text to my school.
Yay, responsible adult. Because I would have done the same thing. You don't play with this. This is not something, and this is amazing. Somebody did something like this back in the 90s or late 2000s or early 2000s, I mean, because, mental illness issues weren't as talked about back then, but I'm glad somebody
And
did
I
something.
ended up being put in a mental hospital. I didn't think I needed it. I wasn't really gonna kill myself. I was just really depressed and it was just life was not going how I wanted it to.
Mm.
When I got that 6-month trial to be with my family again, I honestly thought that they were gonna change forever, but they didn't. Things got so much
Yeah,
worse and I didn't know how to handle it.
no,
And saying I was
nor should she have. This is like as a mother, why do you do this to your kids, guys? People out there who are bad parents. Not that I'm perfect, but
going to die felt like the easiest answer.
yeah, I'm sure.
Um, I was in the mental hospital for about 6 days and obviously they diagnosed me with depression, which I already knew. I was diagnosed with depression since the age of 10
Mm.
and I was taking antidepressants for I don't even know how long. Um, but after I left the mental hospital, I took a whole new meaning of life because I saw people in there that were mental.
Sure.
I'm not trying to be mean in any way, but I don't think I was meant to be there, but it did change my life. And that I do appreciate. Every day since
Yeah. Mm.
then, I never wished a day of my life that I wasn't alive.
Good.
Somewhere in my younger years, my mom did have another child and I held him once and she put him up for close adoption the day he was born. I know my two brothers are out there and
I actually think that this is the one that she got contact with maybe about a year or two ago. So that's good.
more than anything, I just hope that one day they can look at me and I can look at them and we know that we're family. I miss them every day. Even
But this is going to get into my kind of controversial thing of where, it's great to have blood relatives, but it really means very little when you haven't really, lived with the person your whole life, or they do something terrible like her parents did and ruin your life. Not so much with the brothers, and I think it's great to keep contact with them. But I mean, it's controversial, but I'm not a big proponent of just because you're related, you owe them something.
if I knew one brother longer than the other one, I love them both equally. And more than anything, being able to see them again would mean the world to me.
Yeah, I understand that, and I think I'm trying to get at here is that Amberlynn Reid really has like a romantic outlook or a romantic I don't know if that's the right word. She just feels like she wants to recreate something she never had in childhood. And, everybody wants to go back and make things different and have this picture perfect, happy family. But I would say 99% of people never have that picture perfect, father knows best, leave it to Beaver type moment. Everybody's rocky. And in her situation, it was like a nuclear dumpster fire.
So, as everything got worse and worse within my life, my parents started taking more drugs. Even though my parents were separated, my mom was living down the street with her boyfriend in a different trailer, which was literally 10 feet away. So, I was in class yet again, and I get called to the office. About school, I never went.
So she's going to get into here about her, issues in high school. And I have much more tendency to believe this, or just in school in general. I have a much better tendency to believe this story as opposed to the one where she graduated in what, 18 months, and like her whole 4 years she did in 18 months or something crazy, and that she had like a 4.0 or a 3.8. Just listening to her speak, she just did not have a very big formal education, which again is a shame. Every kid deserves a formal education. No kid should have to go through what she did, and it's sad. By the way, let me say this now, and I'll probably repeat it again. This does not forgive every crappy thing she's done, and we're going to get into a little bit of crappy things she's done here in a moment.
I didn't care about school. Things that were happening at home were
Mm-hmm.
ruining my education because that's all I thought about. I'd either miss school or I'd
Cut class.
just not care. Like, I'd go and I wouldn't do any of the work. School was hard. I got made fun of every single day.
Mm.
Um, the few friends I did have actually weren't my friends. They weren't. I mean, the way they treated me isn't how a friend should treat another friend.
Right, I'm sure.
But every day I was bullied. Um, I was the smelly kid. I was the fat girl. That's how people knew me. I was
Well, she was like literally uncared for, okay? And she still doesn't care for herself to today. Like it's held over.
fat Amber. I didn't know how to handle it, but I just got bigger and bigger. But as I was in class on one day, I got called to the office. The cops came, and yet again, me and my brother were being put into foster care. It was hard. Um, that's the biggest word you can use for such an experience. Is it's hard. It's overwhelming and depressing. You don't know what to do when you're put into strangers' homes. You don't know what to do when you're put into a children's shelter. You kind of just have to go with the flow. Um, it's like you're caged in. It's just hard. Um, but this time was a little different. I was in the shelter for months, and I had this daily visit with my mom where I was allowed to spend the whole day with her, with my brother as well, once a week. And so we did that, and I was just texting my friend, simply joking, saying I should live with you because she was my best friend at the time. And little did I know, 2 months later, I was living with her. It was absolutely insane. I don't know how it happened. It happened so quickly, and honestly, at the time, I thought this was beginning to a whole new life that I was gonna love every minute of.
Yeah, I'm not sure who this person is. I don't know if there's further talk, but this, I don't think she's talking about Casey yet. But she'll get to her or him, excuse me, in a minute.
But I was Definitely wrong. So after being put into several different foster homes with strangers and even one foster home with my aunt, which clearly didn't work out. Nothing worked. I was even in a group home for 2 years when I was 10 and 11. That was when I was separated from my brother. And just nothing was working out. So when I had the opportunity to live with my best friend, I was so happy.
Of course.
But her and I became distant. I was still depressed. As much as I wanted to be happy, I was still inside depressed. I went through so much in my life. Things that I witnessed with my own eyes at such a young age was something that people who are 60 years old never even experienced. And
Well, I think recently she's come out to say that she was experienced SA too during this time. She doesn't mention it here. I have no doubt. Like, I don't want to call her. I have no reason to not believe her now, especially because that type of atmosphere that happens a lot.
it makes me stronger.
But it didn't,
But at the time, inside, I was weak. All I did was sleep. I just stayed in my bed and watched TV.
and that's different from now because,
And I ate and I ate and I ate.
and that's different from now because,
Food was my best friend.
and that's different from now because.
And I think she noticed and she didn't like being around me.
Yeah, it was tough love. That sucks. So I'm kind of like that. So her friend was probably a little bit more empathetic than served her. It's hard to be around somebody who's just depressed. I mean, it just kind of puts a gray cloud over everything. And again, folks, this is like 10 years ago. So she's known this and she's had this understanding now for 10 years, and her life has only managed to get worse and worse. This is just heartbreaking.
Neither did my own brother. I was alone. It was hard to be alone again when
Yeah, well, because she's an extrovert, she needs other people. Not
you were
me.
alone your whole life. I really was. I was alone. And feeling alone when so many people around you is one of the worst feelings in the world. And more than anything, I just wanted somebody, and that somebody turned out to be food again. After being, I have to admit, after being pretty much tortured by her and my brother, I climbed my way up to being 420 pounds.
Right. I think this is what she was talking about in the video that I reacted to this weekend. This must have been when she was like 16 or so.
And I will never forget that day when I weighed in and I was 420 pounds. And for some reason, I feel like I even weighed more at one point.
She probably did.
It was it was shocking, and people made fun of me still. I mean, we were almost 18 years old and I was being made fun of still. I mean, when do you grow up, honestly? I
No, never in that situation.
It was just hard. Um when I turned 18, I moved to Oklahoma to be with some of my family. And yet again, I thought that was going to be a new beginning for me, and it didn't work.
She was like so hopeful. You try to be so optimistic, try to, imagine, okay, this time it's going to be different. And it just wasn't. You'll see.
And I wanted it to so bad. Things were happening, and I actually had my first anxiety attack there, which was horrible. And pretty soon, I was diagnosed with panic disorder, and
Mm.
it's just so much was happening. And my mom was still doing drugs because she was also living in Oklahoma at the time, and I just felt hopeless. I knew my parents were never gonna change, and
Mm-hmm.
I wanted them to so bad, but they just weren't. And while I was in Oklahoma, I was in a long distance relationship, and I was gonna go visit my girl.
It, this is where she talks about Casey. Now, Casey currently is a fully transitioned male. So she's going to say girlfriend here, but now Casey is a man.
And not my current girlfriend. I'm just mentioning that. I was gonna go visit my girlfriend, and she lived in Arizona, so I went to go visit her. But while I was in Arizona, I was kicked out of Oklahoma.
See, I wish she would expand on this further, only because I'm curious. Like, and I think the fact that she never really explained sort of why should really tell you a lot. So let's put it this way. So it was her mother and her grandmother and her, Amberlynn. Her mother being on drugs and Amberlynn gets thrown out. She must have done something really unforgivable. I don't know if she's ever said exactly what happened. So one of the commenters to my video was just saying that when Amber was younger, she had a lot of problems with theft, lying. I wonder if that had something to do with it. I haven't found a video that went through that. Maybe now that I'm saying this out loud, the YouTube gods will flip one my way. But, I'm really curious to see what the backstory was on that.
I got a text from my mom saying that my grandma did not want me living in her home, so I was stuck.
But the mother was peachy keen. I would have thrown the mother out.
I didn't know what to do. So I stayed in Arizona. My girlfriend's mom did not want that at all. She hated me.
So I get it. The girlfriend's, Casey's mother, fully understandable. Like, you got a stray kid now. Oh.
So did her
And especially if Amberlynn Reid was a problem.
boyfriend. Several times he threatened to kill me. I was abused there a lot, in several different ways.
Well, she'll get into this a couple years from this video, which I'm sure a lot of you seen a now deleted busy video from Casey. Well, actually, this is where the Amberlynn Reid started it. That was her whole Rain and Petals eavesdrop saga, where she used this person's name because she felt she could, because this person's name was no longer this person's name, because the person had fully transformed to a man. So she used Casey's former name. And she basically accused Casey of R-ing her. You know, the R word that rhymes with grape? That's what she accused Casey of at that time, which was so not cool.
I slowly started falling out of love with my current girlfriend and realizing that the person I should be with was right before my eyes and I didn't even realize it. The current girlfriend I have now, her name is Crystal, and she's changed my life.
Yeah, and this is another thing. So Crystal is very like laid back, very quiet. Amberlynn Reid always absorbs the personality of the person she's with. That's why in these videos, she's very quiet, very whispery. Then when she gets to be with Destiny, she's like outgoing and courageous. And with Becky, she gained a southern drawl. And now with wifey Feline, Alex, Jade, whatever we're calling her, the jury's still out. Like, she's very, I guess, with the younger people's lingo, kind of like the New York sort of vibe going.
Sorry. Um, One day in Arizona, I meet her online and we just talk and talk.
So when, again, to Amberlynn Reid not being able to be alone, whenever I think, my theory anyways, whenever she feels like she's gonna get dumped, I feel like she hurries up and gets somebody, on the deck waiting for her. So that's what happened with her current with the girlfriend Crystal at this time. She, was corresponding with her and while she was still with Casey.
Funny, she's silly, and she really lights up my world. Um, while living in Arizona, I mean, Crystal would text all the time, and I mean, she didn't.
There's one story too where Crystal bought her a top line iPod back in the day. They were iPods. So, um, she's always managed to get people to take care of her. And then so that's why it's a little bit more sad when she makes like a big deal like, oh, nobody's ever been supportive of me. I've always supported everyone. Yeah,
Start lighting up my world right off the bat. We were just friends. She was just funny, and my attention became more towards her, and not so much towards my current girlfriend because how I was treated by her
so she cheated on her current girlfriend of the time. And didn't she say somewhere that she would never cheat on somebody? I don't know.
and by her family, it rubbed me wrong and it wasn't right. Um, so, I still remember the first time I ever told Crystal that I was in love with her. It was over the phone, and I was actually sitting outside of Dunkin' Donuts in like the middle of the night. I know, random. And then a few months later, her and her mom came and visited me, and it was incredible. The girlfriend I had then didn't.
So Crystal and her mom bought Amber's sob story. I can guarantee she made it somewhat like Casey's a monster, get me out of here. And they fell for it hook, line, and sinker.
Approve of this, but I had to be honest with her that I was in love with somebody else. And as much as I wanted to try and work out the relationship I was in, I just knew it wasn't going to happen. Things were falling apart, and things were falling together so perfectly with Crystal that I couldn't ignore it. One night, me and the current girlfriend got in a huge argument, and I just couldn't deal. I finally just said, I'm done. I gave Crystal a call. Next morning, I was actually getting on a plane to be with her. Her parents paid, and I
It's probably the last time she's ever flown.
appreciate everything her parents have done for me. They
Yeah, don't pay it forward though.
they're like parents I never had in a way. Yes, we have ups and downs, but doesn't anybody? Doesn't anybody? I mean, that's part of life, to be able to have ups and downs but still know the true meaning of life, and that people
See, she had the meaning of life figured out back then, guys. What are you talking about?
are so kind if you really give them a chance, and I just appreciate them so much. And for the first time, I can really say that they have changed my life.
Yeah, but her life is going to change like three, four times over. So it's all good.
Um, since I've been here, I've finally been urged to get healthy. I've been losing weight, and I've been doing it because of them. If it wasn't for them, I'd weigh way more than 420 pounds.
See, that was the problem. They kicked her out eventually.
And I can tell you that right now. um,
But wait a minute, though. Maybe are these the folks that caused her to unhealthily lose the weight?
they have helped me in ways that I can't even express, and I appreciate them so much. And I love you, Crystal. I know you're watching this, and I just want you to know that I love you so much. And you really do mean the world to me. So this is where I'm at now. Um, I'm living with Crystal and her parents, and I'm really happy. I feel better for kind of getting this off my chest because it is good to know.
Does that sound familiar? It's like deja vu all over again.
Who is behind the video. And now you guys kind of do have an idea of who is behind this video. And through it all, I'm still me. And even though my parents are never going to change, I'm 22
They're never going to change.
and they're still the way they were from day one. I
22,
know
she
that I can
was.
be a better person, whether
But
my
you won't.
brother falls in their footsteps or not.
And
I
he
still
did.
love him too.
And she
And
does.
knowing that I can be stronger than to be like them makes me feel like I'm gonna be alright. I really am.
All right, guys. So that was a trip down memory lane for Amberlynn Reid. I wonder if this is one of the old videos that she watched. I mean, I kind of hope it was, because if she had only taken her own advice back then, she would not be in the situation she's in now. And again, I don't want to harp on her issue with her mother and her family and her brother, but the time to work on it, she could still work on it now, right? But like the narc alert said, sometimes people work on it forever. Sometimes, people just start working on it. At some point, you have to call it a day, get over it, or otherwise, like I said in my open letter, you let those who hurt you back then keep a hold on you. And it's like they re-abuse you every day. So that's really all I had to say, since Amberlynn Reid was getting emotional and YouTube thought I needed to know what she said almost 10 years ago. I thought I'd share it with you guys. Once again, thanks for putting up with me on my crazy opinions, but I really do appreciate it. And thank you all for the outpouring of comments and likes and subscriptions. Again, still trying to build my channel, trying to get the word out there. So leave a comment and like, share, subscribe. Mwah! Bye bye.